Welcome to toy-polloi. Parental guidance. This video contains scenes of Lego destruction.
Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi. Now today's restoration video is going to be a bit of a labour of love and going to take quite a few hours to do, because recently at a toy fair I met up with Rob Bartlett and he said he had a bag of goodies for me, and this is the bag of goodies. As you can see, it's a whole pile of Emperor's Royal Guards. Now there are, I think, 14 different guards here, all in various states of repair, and they all need a little bit of TLC to get them looking as good as new. Now Rob had started work on trying to restore a lot of these. So as you can see, the most common problem with Emperor's Royal Guards is that the heads snap off, and the children of the sort of the 70s and 80s decide to rip off the capes, and so you end up with Emperor's Royal Guards that look like that, or like this with a head broken off. Now Rob, as I said, had started work on fixing these, and this is exactly how I would fix them. Basically using a Lego peg, drill that into the body and drill a hole into the head of the figure, and then you can reattach them like that. Let's see if that one fits on. Yes, he's done a really good job of that. That fits on very nicely. So we're going to have to sort of see what state all of these figures are in and what needs doing to them. And then we've got the very long job of remaking all of the missing capes. Now some of these do appear to have the underrobes. You can see quite a few of them have underrobes. Let's pile these all up. Quite a few have nothing at all. Looks like there's one there that has everything. So that's obviously what the Emperor's Royal Guard should look like. He has two robes. He's got an underrobe which has sort of no sleeves on it, and then an over sort of little cloak thing, and once that's in place it looks like a proper Royal Guard. But as you can see, all of these are missing. So let's have a quick sort of rummage through and we'll work out what we need to make. So there we go, I've sorted them out into what we need to do. So we have 14 figures in total that need capes, and we have another 5 that need the underrobes made, and also we have 2 that still need the heads repairing on them. As you can see here, this is how you quite often find an Emperor's Royal Guard. The head has been snapped off, and you've got something that looks like that. So sometimes you can glue them. If you're lucky, they will sort of glue back together. Other times we need to do a bit more work. As you can see, this head has been very badly chewed, which is fine, because also after I received all these figures I got a message from Matthew Bailey who said that he had a spare Emperor's Royal Guard head. So we have a spare head that hasn't been chewed, so I'm going to replace this chewed up one with this one here. So again, this has snapped off in the standard way, so we can do a pretty straightforward fix on those. So as I say, we've got to make 5 underrobes and then 14 of the top capes. But I think the first thing we're going to do is drill the holes and get these heads ready to be reattached, and then we can start making all of the soft goods. Now I have shown how to do all these fixes before. This is just a sort of a recap video, and I thought it would be fun to show because there's just so many of these figures that need work on. It's really a sort of a massive challenge to get all of these done. It's going to take quite a few hours, but it is worthwhile doing. So first up, we're going to fix, as I say, the heads back onto these 2 figures that Rob hasn't got around to fixing. So you can see here there's the end of the little post that the head would have attached onto, and we need to remove that. So I have some plastic nippers here. I'm just going to carefully cut that bit of plastic off and make it as flat as possible, and that's a good starting point. The other head has snapped off a little bit further inside. It shouldn't be a problem because we're going to drill a hole there anyway. And then here are the 2 heads. This is the one that Matthew Bailey sent me. It looks like someone's actually had a go at gluing that already, so I might just sort of scrape a bit of that glue out first before I get the drill ready, just to sort of make the area a little bit easier to work with. I don't know what quite sort of glue this is, but normally old glue is fairly sort of brittle and you can flake some of it out. Actually, that's not too bad. I think I'm just going to go ahead and drill the holes in this. So I have some Lego pegs here, and I've got a drill bit that is the same size of these Lego pegs. Now these are axle pins, so it's half axle, half pin, and these are perfect. I tend to put the axle part inside the body and then use the pin bit to go inside the head. So we'll just get these holes drilled and see how we can fit that and glue it in place. And so here we have one of the replacement neck pegs attached to the body. If you're doing this yourself, then I would suggest that you do the drilling of both the body and the head using a vise. I'm doing it using my hands here because I need to film it on camera, but I really would suggest you do it with a vise because it's a lot safer. And here you can see this is one of the heads that I've drilled out as well, and that fits neatly onto the body, and it means that you can swap out any of these heads and they'll all fit on just because everything is now the same size. That one looks like I haven't drilled out the hole quite far enough. You can see the neck post doesn't go in quite far enough, so I'll just do a little bit of a modification on that one, but otherwise they're all going to work really well. Now we can get on to doing the soft goods. Now to move on to the capes. Now again, I've previously shown you how I do this. I've actually got a pattern already available on toy-polloi.com, so you need to go and download that and print it out, and you'll end up with two pieces. You'll end up with this, which is the outer cape, and then an inner cape section, which I think I just have down here as well, which is that one. Now I've already started doing some cutting because there's so many of these things to cut, and I've cut all of the internal bits of the cape. So these are the inner side bits. You can see that it's using this pattern, and I've cut 5 of these because we need to make 5 of them, but the one that we need to make a lot of is the outer cape. So you can use whatever material you like, but I find red felt gives quite a nice finish to it, and you can see I can get a very nice sort of shade of red because the red that's used for the Emperor's Royal Guard is a sort of not quite burgundy, but certainly it's not a very bright red. You can see this sort of original Emperor's Royal Guard here is a little bit faded, so it's a little bit lighter than the material that I've got, but this is sort of very close to the original. So I'm going to be using this, and as I say, I have to cut 14 of these outer capes. So I have 4 sheets of this felt, and I think I can get 4 of the capes to each sheet. So I'm just going to get cutting basically. So here's a sheet. I've already stuck some double-sided tape on the back of this, you can see, and I'm just going to be using that as my sort of way of fixing it to the felt, and I've got to get cutting and doing an awful lot of cutting, so I may be some time. Well, that didn't take quite as long as I'd expected. I was expecting to be here for about an hour cutting all of these out, but I've managed to do it in about 20 minutes. So there we have 14 of the top capes and 5 of the under capes. Now I think the sewing bit is going to take a very long time because there's lots of little bits of sewing to do on all of these before we can put them on the figure. So let's start with that process and just see how long it takes. Now, if you've watched my previous video on making these capes, you know you don't have to be an amazing sewer. It takes a little bit of sewing to get these looking right. So this is the underskirt. We just have to fold this together, and you can see there's 2 little sort of tabs, I would say, and that's the bit we've got to sew. We've got to sew just along that seam there. And I've got some thread here. Again, this is just thread I picked up from the local sort of fabric and haberdashery shop, and it's a pretty good match for the colour of the felt. And really, you don't actually get to see a lot of this, especially on this underskirt, because this is all hidden by the main cape. So really, I've just got to start sewing. I've got 5 of these to do, and I've just got to sew along this little edge here, and hopefully it'll only take a couple of minutes for each one. So maybe in half an hour's time I'll have these 5 done, because my sewing is not great. I tend to sort of make little mistakes as I go, but that's half the fun of it. So I just get these all sewn up. And once we've got that done, we can turn it inside out so that the seam is on the inside, and you can see even my not very good sewing actually ends up looking pretty reasonable. So we'll get on and do all of these. And there we have 5 underskirts done. As you can see, they don't look too bad. Once you've turned them inside out, you really can't see the sewing that's on the back of them. Let's do a test fit. So here we have one of the figures with a replacement neck post, and we just have to pop his legs through. You go in the top of this one, and then the little hole on the front hooks over the new neck post like so. There you go, and that looks pretty reasonable. We can just put his head on just so you can see what it looks like and compare it to an original one here. We're starting to get to what looks like an Emperor's Royal Guard again. Now we can move on to the capes, and there's an awful lot more of these capes to make than there were these underskirts. We can now move on to the next stage, which is the outer capes, and again there's a lot of them to do. There's 14 of these, and it's the same process as we've just done for the under capes. We've got to fold the cape in half, and then you can see there's a slightly sort of tabbed area at the top, and that needs sewing again. So I'm just going to crack on and see how long it takes me to do 14 of these. Hopefully not too long, maybe an hour or so, but we've just got to get started, and it'll be done when it's done. is the last one. So there is 14 capes all sewn. Let's turn this one inside out. And there we have it, 14 capes ready to go on the Emperor's Royal Guards. With all the capes done, we can get these onto the figures. There are two different types of figures that I need to work on. The first lot is the ones where the heads have snapped off and I have made new pegs, or they need to be glued back on. Those are the really easy ones to fit. And then there are some like this where the head hasn't been removed, it's still glued firmly in place now, and those are a little bit trickier. So to start with, I'm going to do all of the easy ones and then I'll show you how to do the trickier ones. So really all we've got to do is get a figure, get a little bit of glue and get one of the new capes, and we will just get started. So here's a cape, got to push it onto the figure, line it up so that his arm comes out the sort of the slit on one side. It's always got to be his right arm because that is the arm with the little gripping hand, and then we can just do a test fit, make sure that fits on like it does, and then we can do a little bit of glue just onto the top of this peg like so, tiny little bit of super glue, and we'll push this head on. And that is the first figure done. So I'm going to do all of the easy ones and then we'll get on to the harder ones. That's all the ones with the broken heads done. Now we've got the ones where the heads are still fixed in place, and for this you'll just need a screwdriver, like a fairly small headed screwdriver, and a little bit of patience because it just takes a little while to do this. So we get one of the capes. You don't need to modify the cape at all, you just have to pull the cape over the head of the Royal Guard, and the fabric does have a little bit of stretch to it, so just sort of pull it down as far as you can go and you'll find it will stretch a little bit. And then once you've sort of eased it over the shoulders enough, you can start using the screwdriver to sort of push the fabric under the Emperor's Royal Guard's helmet. You can see you can sort of pull it down, and with a bit of guidance you can push this fabric underneath. And you just have to work your way around. It's a slow process, but it is possible, and it saves you having to remove the head of the guard, which is, you don't need to do it, there's no point in doing it. So you just have to really go a little bit at a time, move your way around, push the fabric under, move around, do another little bit. Some of the heads are very firmly glued on, so there's not much give, but you can do it with patience. And there you go, there's the one cape on. So I say it's a little bit more fiddly than the version with the heads that are already detached, but you can do it and it still gives a very good result. So I've just got one more of these to do, and then we can have a look at the whole army. And here we have the finished army of Emperor's Royal Guards. As you can see, they look pretty impressive now that they've all got their capes back in place. And the felt has matched the original fabric incredibly well. In fact, there's only one original sort of Emperor's Royal Guard cape in this whole lot, and that is this one here. And as you can see, the others match really nicely. I have actually used sort of two types of felt with slightly different shades. I think you can just about see here, this one is a slightly darker red than some of the others, just because I had some offcuts and I wanted to sort of mix and match, because none of the Royal Guards that I have actually have the same colour cape, so I thought it was quite nice just to have a little bit of variation in the way that these ones look as well, otherwise they would look too uniform. But as you can see, from a bag of broken Emperor's Royal Guards, we now have this lovely army's worth of them, and these are going to look absolutely fantastic when I put them with the rest of my Imperial army that I've started to call Yellow Squadron, because all of the figures in my army are sort of beaters and broken ones that I've fixed up over the years, and these will fit perfectly with it, because these are sort of another wabby-sabby collection of Emperor's Royal Guards that are all sort of a bit broken and a bit sort of mended with handmade capes, but I do think they look absolutely lovely here. So a massive thanks again to Rob Bartlett for giving me this sort of big bag of broken Emperor's Royal Guards, because it's been a labour of love, but really something I've enjoyed doing. And also again thanks to Matthew Bailey, who supplied one of the heads. I couldn't tell you which head it is now because it's sort of mixed up within the rest of these figures, but thanks to him for supplying a non-chewed Emperor's Royal Guard head. If you'd like to know more about making these capes, then do watch my original video on them. I'll put a link in the description for that, and you can get the pattern for making these capes off toy-polloi.com. So I hope this video has been of interest to you, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching toy-polloi. Subscribe for more great videos. You can also follow toy-polloi on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.